So hey guys, welcome to the second part of this video. I hope you all watched the video where I basically just told you what the top 100 films were for me, my personal top 100 films list. For this second half of the video, I want to talk about certain titles and why they're personally on there for me. Why it might surprise some people that that title fit onto the list and why I put it on there. Why not? And why I didn't choose an Academy Award winner, or a film that's viewed as a classic, supposedly. Um, so let's go over some of these titles here. I'm not going to do all of them. Some of them are pretty obvious. Like I don't have to explain Silence of the Lambs, and I don't have to explain Jaws, and I don't have to explain E.T. Because there's a lot of people out there who really, really like those films already and already view those films as classics. Um, well, like I said, I really want to focus this video on the titles that maybe is probably one of the first times that you might see that title on a top 100 film list. Um, so the first film I want to talk about is actually the one at number 100, which is Big Daddy. I really like that film, you guys. I think it's one of Adam Sandler's better films. I think it's definitely a film that had a better balance compared to all his other films. That there was a message behind it, and there definitely was. Even though it's very much buried between all these dirty jokes that you see throughout the film, really the film's all about that we all have to grow up at some point. We all have to accept the fact that we're going to have a kid someday, that there's going to be something that comes along the way that we didn't expect, and that we have to deal with it, and then we have to move on to the next part of our lives, even though we may not want to do it at that point in time. I think Big Daddy's a film that really represents that, and I think even though it's very much known for its humor, for it, that this guy really having no idea how to take care of a kid, I think that message really is shown very well in that film. And even though Adam Sandler as an actor gets a lot of crap, I think Big Daddy is definitely a film that deserves more recognition, which is the only reason why I put it on my top 100 film list. The next one was actually number 99, DOA, Dead or Alive. That film gets a ton of crap. A lot of people don't like it. But if you really think about it, though, I mean, it really wasn't meant to be this well-written, Academy Award-winning film. I think it's definitely a film that basically they had to come up with these five things. It has to have fighting in it. There has to be hot girls in it. It has to take place on a beach. It has to have some kind of story that maybe the games couldn't do because they are fighting games. So give us some kind of a story, which I think the film did. Um, and basically, how are these characters going to, interact with each other? What's going to be their history? Which characters are going to get more screen time than others? And I think DOA really sat down. These writers and directors and producers sat down and really thought things through on how this thing was going to come to life on the big screen. And it's really too bad that the film doesn't get a lot of recognition, because I think with more recognition, I think this could be one of the better video game adaptations that we've had ever. Because we've had a ton of really bad video game adaptations to film, and I think DOA is definitely a film that really shows kind of what we can do with film, and what these video games can become with the right writers and directors and producers. The next one I want to talk about is let's see here, is a 007 Doctor No. It's the original James Bond. It has a special place in my heart because I think it is one of the first Bond films I ever did watch. Also, James Bond started for me around the same time James Bond started for a lot of other people, back when Sean Connery was Bond. Ursula Andress kind of set the bar of what a Bond girl should be and look like. Classic villain. We have this character that basically Doctor Evil was based off of in Austin Powers. With this plastically astronaut space suit on near the end of the film, and it's just a very well done film. And for being made in the early '60s, I think it's a very, very well done film, which I'm sure was very revolutionary for that time period. The next one is Where the Wild Things Are, which was number 91. Um, I really like that film, you guys. I think it's definitely they definitely took the book and put it to a different level, and a better different level at that rate. Um, Spike Jonze is easily one of the more creative directors working today, and I really think he took the story and made it more mature. Definitely added more layers to it, added more messages to it. Did more with the Max character, added more dimension and more development to these monsters that we see. They're not just these random monsters following Max around on the island like the book seems to do. Each monster basically exists in the film for a different reason. And if you really think about it, each monster represents as one of Max's emotions or one of the characteristics of Max. And I really think Spike Jonze really brought that to the big screen in a very good way. The next one is Pirates of the Caribbean 2 Dead Man's Chest, which is number 89. Really like that film. In fact, I like it even better than the first film, surprisingly enough. I know a lot of people don't think so. I think Bill Nighy's Davy Jones character was just really, really legendary in the film. Um, you know, uh, Jeffrey Rush did a terrific Barbossa in the first film, but there was something about Davy Jones in the second film that just really gives you, the impression of something that really lived deep down in the sea. Like he has, those glowing eyes in the dark. Uh, it's basically the ultimate scary pirate, and I really think that Gore Verbinski portrayed that very well. He made an even more epic villain in the first film. Barbosa was a classic villain, but I mean, it's one thing to have a skeleton in the dark, but we have this character that glows and has these glowing eyes and these tentacles that go out everywhere and form a beard. I really like how they play off of the whole, Davy Jones's locker kind of thing, and basically makes us ask ourselves, what would Davy Jones be like if he actually was this really dark, evil pirate walking around? So it was just a really, really well done film. Cat's Eye was number 88. Um, Very well done film. It's not very well known. Um, it's kind of like Creep Show in the sense that it's a series of stories all put together into one film, um, and they all involve a cat in some ways. This cat that's wandering the land. Just very, very well done anthology film, you guys, and it's definitely the third stories for sure definitely broke boundaries for what the film technology was at that time period. And it really brought Stephen King's short stories to life. I thought from that film. So let's see here. Uh, Sideways is number 93, and I think I want to brought it up. I wanted to bring this up because Sideways is one of those rare films where there's conflict in it, but there's not so much conflict, and there's not they always say every story needs conflict. I think Sideways is one of those films where it does have conflict, but it's a very secondary focus in the film, and I think it definitely, because it kind of does that thing differently compared to other stories. I think Sideways really lets us know these characters and lets us go on this journey with them. And it's just a very, very well made film, and you would just sit back and watch it for what it is. Very, very well done film. I think Alexander Payne should get more credit for the film because it's a really, really well done film. Let's see what else we have here. For Apocalypse Now, I like the original cut better than the Redux version. Um, I think the original cut it's more to the point than the Redux one was. The Redux one just had a ton of scenes that really didn't need to be in there. I think Apocalypse Now definitely has a better flow to it than the recut one did. Really, really well done war film. A lot of really neat effects that went into it. Um, it definitely took the average war story and put it to the next level, which I thought was always really cool about it. Probably one of the only war films that also has like tiki sacrifices in it, and it's just really, really well done how Francis Ford Coppola pulled it off. The next one is Ruby Sparks. It barely got any attention last year in 2012, and I really think it should get more attention. It's just a well done film. It's just so well written, And it's just one of those films where that you watch it and you have like almost no problems with it at all. It just flows perfectly. It's well written. It's very original for what it's trying to do. It's just such a well done original film, and I think more people would. I think a lot of people will like it if they just give it a chance. And I really think with if it had a wide release, which it didn't, it had a limited release. I think it could have been a much more successful film. I'll talk about this one briefly. For number 45 and number 46, I had Back to the Future Part 2 and Back to the Future Part 3. There's this forever going on. There's this forever going debate of whether Part 2 or Part 3 was better than the Back to the Future franchise. For me personally, I thought Part 2 was a better film than Part 3. I just thought Part 2 it took what the first film was known for and it made it more complex and more interesting. I thought the view of the future was more interesting. I just thought part three, it was a lot of fun. It's definitely on my top 100 for sure. It's an excellent film. I just thought part three was it just wasn't as fun. It wasn't as complex. It was not. There was less Marty time, and I thought that was a very bad choice. A great film, but I did the choice of making it focus more so on Dr. Brown than Marty. I thought was an unusual choice. Um, I thought the whole thing with Clara was it was nice, but it's just like okay, it's just not what part two was known for. Um, so that was just kind of my take on part two and part three of Back to the Future. All three are excellent films, but I really think that part two is a better film than part three. Let's see here. Wreck It Ralph's another one where people saw it, but I think it deserves more recognition than what it got. Really well done animated film. Definitely one of the more creative animated films I've seen in a long time. It's just really original. It's a lot of fun. Um, it really homages video games incredibly well. If you watch the end credit scenes too, they definitely tribute these classic games, and they take the Wreck It Ralph universe and put their own take onto those classic games. It's just such a well done film, and I highly recommend it to everybody. Let's see here. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, a very underrated film. It's such a classic horror film, and it definitely, I think it's even more than a horror film. I think it's a film of people understanding who they really are, what they were supposed to be, because they're in a rehab center throughout the movie. It's basically we get to learn what these characters were hoping to be, and it's just such a really well done film about teamwork and about the special effects were really revolutionary for that time period. And I just think it did more. It did even more than what it was asked to, and I can really appreciate a film that can do that. It's not just a great horror film; it's a great teamwork film and a great special effects ride. Just a really well done film, and I think it deserves more recognition. And then the last film I want to talk about is Austin Powers and Goldmember. I just think it's a really clever. I think its style of humor is just so original, and I think it did more than the first two films did. Um, there's just so many jokes that'll stay with you forever from the film. It's just such a great comedic adventure, and it's such a great example of what spoofs should be in film. Um, just a really well done film, and like I said, the jokes will stay with you forever. It's just such a great film. Um, I remember laughing really hard when I first saw that film too. So, like I said, I just wanted to explain some of these titles, you guys. If you have more questions about these titles, feel free to ask down below. I know I have a ton of films on here to talk about and very little time to talk about them. But like I said, if there's any films I missed on here that you had questions about, why it's on here or what didn't make it to the list, feel free to ask me and I'll answer them the best I can. But I hope to see you guys here for the next video.